I want to share with you something that happened in the United States of America a few years ago. As you know, in America there are a lot of Indians, and in San Diego there was an Indian family, Mr. Prakash and his family. Mr. Prakash was a slightly elderly gentleman, about 55 years old at the time, and he had a son. His son was married, his wife, and so on. They were living together, a joint Indian pious family. Mr. Prakash was not very pious, but somehow his wife, his son, his daughter-in-law, and some other members in his family were interested in religious life. So they would often go to the Krishna temple in San Diego, which was an ISKCON temple, and oftentimes the devotees from the temple were invited to Mr. Prakash's home for prasadam, which means sanctified food. There would be some sort of a congregation of devotees who would come together, chant the holy names of the Lord, and the temple president, whose name was Badrinarayan Das, he used to often visit that home and give lectures. At certain times, Mr. Prakash, being obliged, would also go with his family members to the temple, but he didn't show much interest in the activities of the temple. In fact, he wished that his family members were not so religious. At one point of time, Mr. Prakash became seriously ill and had to be taken to the hospital. And in the hospital, he was being operated upon. 4 times, the doctors nearly lost him, but somehow or the other, he was brought back to life. He went into a coma, and since he was not coming out of the coma, his wife requested the temple president, Badrinarayan Prabhu, to visit him in the hospital and chant some mantras and offer some prayers for Mr. Prakash. Now, after several days, Mr. Prakash suddenly came out of his coma. On coming out of his coma, uncharacteristically, he told his family members that he is not interested in speaking to them, much to their surprise, because he was an attached family man. Instead, he asked to meet the temple president, Badri. He said, call Badri, call Badri. And that was the only thing he was telling his family members. The surprised family members called Badrinarayan Prabhu and requested him, please come to the hospital. Our father, Mr. Prakash, is anxiously waiting to speak to you. As soon as Badrinarayan Prabhu entered the hospital room, Mr. Prakash started screaming, they came 4 times. They came 4 times. The relatives who were crowded around Mr. Prakash thought he is referring to them. So they said, actually we came many times, Mr. Prakash, but you were in coma, you did not realize we came. We expressed our love for you, we were concerned about you, we came many times. Mr. Prakash ignored them and continued to tell Badrinarayan Prabhu, Badri, they came 4 times, they came 4 times. And finally it struck Badrinarayan Prabhu and he asked, who came? The Vishnu Dutas? And Mr. Prakash shook his head and he said, no, the bad people. And he explained, he said, the Yamadutas. He said they were so grotesque, so horrifying, scary. He said the first time they came and they tried to drag him from his body. And he told them he was very scared. He said, I am simply depending on Krishna. because he remembered the words that were spoken to him many times during the lectures and programs that he attended. As soon as he uttered the name of Krishna and he said, "I'm depending on Krishna," the Yamadutas let go of him and went away. Then after some time they came again. Again Mr. Prakash was shaking out of fear. And again he took shelter, because he saw that the first time when he said, "I'm depending on Krishna," they stopped. He repeated the same thing. He said, "I'm depending on Krishna, you can do whatever you like." Immediately the Yamadutas left. This happened another time, the third time. And finally, the fourth time, he says, when the Yamadutas were there and they wanted to take him away, the Vishnudutas also arrived. The beautiful forms of Vishnu with 4 hands, with the conch, the discus, the lotus flower, and the mace. The Vishnudutas arrived, and when the Yamadutas saw the Vishnudutas, they understood that they have no more claim on the soul, and they left the place. As soon as the Vishnudutas arrived, Mr. Prakash became normal and he woke up from his coma. And that is when he called for Badri. He said, "Badri, please come." And then he told Badrinarayan Prabhu that until now I have not been serious about my devotion to God, to Krishna. I have not been serious. I have actually wished that my family members not be so interested, that they not be so religious, that they not spend money on going to the temple and feeding the devotees. He said, "I have been arrogant, I have been impolite." But he said, all this is going to change from now on. He said, "I'm going to be 100% serious about my devotional life. I'm going to really be loving and caring and serving to the devotees." And exactly as he said, Mr. Prakash became a changed man. He started going to the temple every day, whenever he could, and he started doing so many services in the temple. He did not consider that he is an important person and this service is menial and that service is great. He started serving the devotees with love and affection, inviting them to their home and serving them nice prasadam and food in his home. He was a changed man. How calamities can change us, how fear can change us, how situations that are dangerous can rekindle our faith in the Supreme Lord. This story of Mr. Prakash is an amazing one. Happened just a few years ago in San Diego. And Mr. Prakash is still living there. A changed man, full of devotion, full of love for the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. We would like to hear from you. Have you had any experience which has changed your life? An experience where you probably had some intense fear, intense trouble, and where the Lord saved you, where the Lord came forth and showed you that He loves you, that He cares for you. Or have you heard of such incidents in other people's lives? Please share. Tell us about it. Hare Krishna.